Today we have Mrs. U.S. Universal 2013, Amanda Grad, on the PageantCast.
Welcome to the PageantCast, your home for beauty pageant news and interviews on the internet.
Hello everybody, and my name is Cecilia Margraf, your Miss St. Francis 2013, and you are watching the PageantCast with Tim Kretschmann.
You're watching the PageantCast, and I'm so excited because tonight we're going to be meeting Amanda Grad. She's Mrs. U.S. Universal 2013. Hello, Amanda.
Hello, Tim.
Well, first of all, where am I calling you tonight?
I am on the far west valley of Phoenix, Arizona.
I am guessing that it's warmer where you are than where I am right now. I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Now, we have had some snow melt, but we still have snow out, and when we're recording this is mid-March. I'm guessing you have very little snow on the ground.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't mention the fact that I actually had my air conditioning on in my car earlier.
You're right, you probably shouldn't. Now, I think, were you originally from Chicago, or you've got some Chicago ties, don't you?
I am. I was born and raised in the south suburbs of Chicago, and my husband and I moved to Arizona about 7 years ago, but both of our families still live there. So we have everybody back in Tinley, Orland. Everyone's on the outside of Chicago.
Okay, well, I'm sure they told you all about this wonderful winter we just went through, probably the worst since 1979. So,
I think a few of them have decided they want to move out here.
I bet. So, Amanda, I know you've been in the pageant industry and around pageants for a while. What are some of your pageant achievements or some of your past titles?
Tim, I started back in 2001. I had captured the title of Mrs. Illinois with the Globe pageant system,
Okay.
And I decided to join them again for another year in 2003. I took a couple of years off after that, and I kind of toyed around with some smaller local pageants, and then I got back into some of the bigger ones in, I think it was 2007. Shortly after I moved to Arizona, I took the title of Mrs. Arizona U.S. Globe.
Okay.
And then I went, and actually when I met you was Mrs. International 2010. So I was Mrs. Arizona International in 2010. And then in 2011, I decided to try Globe one more time, and that was when I ended up winning Mrs. U.S. Globe 2011, and I had been Mrs. Southwest, so I had a regional title that time when I went back. Yes, my good friend Liz Fogg told me about the U.S. Universal pageant system, and it was going to be in the married division. Whoever won the Mrs. title was going to continue on to the 2013 Mrs. Universe pageant that was going to be held in Aruba. And I kind of thought, I'm done for a while. I'm going to hang up my heels for a little bit, and somehow I ended up taking the title of Mrs. Arizona. And I'm very glad that I did, because I ended up winning the national title in June, which was held in Fort Collins, Colorado. And then I had about 6 weeks to prepare for Mrs. Universe, which was held in the friendly island of Aruba.
You know, a lot of times pageants are like that line from The Godfather Part 3. Just when you think you're out, they pull you back in.
I'm learning that.
Absolutely. So, in Aruba, what was it like in Aruba? Have you been to Aruba before?
No, I hadn't been to Aruba, and it's actually really funny because I only have 2 stamps in my passport,
Okay.
and both of those stamps are because of pageants. And so I really think that, maybe I just need to stay in the pageant loop, because it helps me with traveling and seeing different areas of the world that I might not have seen otherwise. Aruba it was fantastic. We were out there for, I think it was 8 or 9 days, and we had so much it's a very small island. I mean, you could drive across it from one end to the other in about an hour and a half.
Okay.
So it's a very small island, but they're extremely accommodating, and they really are. They say that they are the friendliest island, and they truly are. The people there, everyone's happy to see you. Everyone is so pleasant. It was a great experience. It really was.
That is so cool. And you came in third runner-up, correct?
Yes, I did.
All right. Now, you talked about Arizona. Is there a strong Arizona pageant scene, or is it pretty sparse? What's the scene out there? Be my spy. What is it like out there?
Yeah, it's definitely not very strong.
Okay.
I would say the stronger one that you're going to find out here is probably the United States pageant.
Okay.
I know the director for that, and she has a pretty good following and a pretty good system with her. But, just girls wanting to get into pageants altogether, sometimes I'll approach someone that I think might be good for doing pageants, and they're kind of like, oh, I've never even considered it, or I've never, I don't even watch them when they come on TV. And I'm like, okay, well.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, you got involved in pageants at the Mrs. level, right?
Yes.
Never before that?
When I was in school, I had always told my mom that I wanted to do pageants. They were always very intriguing to me, and I remember I was one of those little girls that would sit down when Miss USA or Miss America came on TV, and, I had my bowl of popcorn, and everybody had to be quiet, and I was just fixated on the TV, and I wanted to do that kind of stuff. But I'll be the first one to admit that I was not very good with my grades. And so, my mom had told me that if I could keep my grades up, I could do extracurricular things like that, outside of school. But until my grades got up, it just wasn't going to happen. So I kind of toyed around with some other things. In high school, I did makeup crew for drama club and theater. And, I just kind of did little stuff like that. But then shortly after my husband and I got married, which we got married at 20, we had kind of talked about how, even though I was working what was considered full-time in the salon that I was working at, I had a lot of free time on my hands.
Okay.
So, I kind of thought, well, that's always been something that I wanted to do. And I knew that on the teen levels and the miss levels, there were scholarships and all kinds of programs that went along with it. But I thought, let me look into the misses divisions and see, what's the benefit, what women are doing and what their causes are. And, when you win, what are you doing and what your platforms are. So I just decided that, maybe even just to get my foot in the door doing a lot more charity and, connecting with organizations, locally and state level and then internationally. So it was kind of let's see where this goes, and I'm glad that I did it.
So you had a little bit of free time, but I noticed that you have about 35 animals running around there.
It might seem like 35. There's 4 dogs and 5 cats.
Okay.
Yes, my platform, need I say more? There are a lot of animals around here. I became an animal foster mom and a volunteer and a rescuer here in Arizona shortly after we moved out here. Where I lived in the suburbs of Chicago, if you saw an animal running down the street, it literally just got out of someone's yard. It wasn't a stray. You didn't see strays.
Right.
And then I got out here, and almost every time I would leave my house, I saw some animal somewhere, in a field, on the side of the road, sitting in a parking lot. It seemed to me like there was so much more of a need for more people that were willing to, stop and help, stop and pick up, rescue, foster, do whatever you can to help some of these animals. I think that our stray population here in Arizona is pretty high.
Okay. So, and I notice you're petting as you're talking too. That's just constant.
Yeah, I've got one little rescue here. He thinks that he's part of the show, so we'll introduce him. This is little guy, okay. And he's wearing a Bears jersey, representing Chicago. But he's actually a stray that my husband picked up, and we had all the best intentions to find him a home, but he's stuck around. He's been here a year. Okay.
Well, I think he's part of the family by this point.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back with more with Amanda Grad. She's Mrs. U.S. Universal 2013 in just a moment.
Joining the most beautiful audience in the internet, the PageantCast audience. This is Christy Cresson, Mrs. North Carolina America 2014, wishing you tiara dreams.
Now let's take a look at what's going on at Amazon.
I have
have to say the Amazon description of this movie is quite accurate, and anybody in beauty pageant should be familiar with Miss Congeniality. Sandra Bullock stars as a bumbling female FBI agent assigned to go undercover as a participant in the Miss United States beauty pageant when it is discovered that one of the contestants is being targeted for murder. She actually got a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress, and the star-studded cast made it a great, hilarious comedy. Check it out. Click on the link that we have in the show notes, and you can purchase it from Amazon through our affiliate link.
Before you purchase something at Amazon, come to PageantCast.com first. Click the link that looks like this, and we get credit for the sale, and you help out the PageantCast. Thank you!
We're back with Amanda Grad. She's Mrs. US Universal 2013. It's a title that not a lot of people are familiar yet with, right, Amanda?
Right. Yes, it's something that people are getting familiar with, and it's actually I'm going to explain the history behind it because it's kind of a confusing title.
Okay.
Even when I was out in Aruba, I was competing with all of the women who were wearing titles that were Mrs. Venezuela Universe, Mrs. Canada Universe. So everybody else was Universe. But here in the United States, since Donald Trump owns the Miss Universe organization,
right?
In order to not create any kind of
confusion,
for instance,
yeah.
Here in the U.S., since this is someone different that owns this, it has to be universal. We can't have the same title because people automatically associate it with Donald Trump, and this is not owned by Donald Trump. So, it's amazing sometimes how just a couple little extra letters at the end, it makes a difference. But, technically, I mean, even on the Mrs. Universe website, they have me listed as Mrs. USA Universe, but here in the U.S., my title is Universal.
So I've been very excited. I see you have a number of items behind you. I believe you brought them for our show and tell segment. So what are you going to show us?
Okay, well.
Oh, it's the photo bomber. It's the photo bombing dog. Yay!
Can we leave the area for just a little bit?
Okay. I think your dog grew. I'm just saying he
got
larger.
No, that's one of the other ones.
No, I think he got larger, and that's amazing. You saw it here first, folks.
Okay, well, all right. The first item that I have for my show and tell is a candle that was a gift given to me by one of the children at the Aruba Special Olympics. While we were out in Aruba, I would say probably 4 or 5 charity events we attended, and Special Olympics Aruba came and they actually put on a show for us, which was fantastic. I mean, these kids learned all kinds of dance routines and put on all kinds of costumes and outfits, and it was great. And all of us who were delegates, we had all brought something for each one of these kids, and in return, they gave us a gift. So this is my Special Olympics Aruba candle, and I love it, and it sits in one of my little cubby areas in my bookcase, usually, except for today because it's on show and tell.
Fantastic. That's great. Okay, what is this here? Uh-oh.
Okay, next.
Now, I know you love furry things, so this has got to be part of that theme.
I do. But actually, this teddy bear I had named More because of More, Oklahoma. Right after the tornadoes had hit, a couple friends and I had gotten together and kind of decided that, there were a lot of disaster relief people there that were taking care of food and water and shelter and clothing. And we thought, let's do something for the kids. There are a lot of kids that are displaced and there's a lot of stuff going on and things are scary at a time like this when they are in an unfamiliar area and, their house is no longer. So we decided to do a teddy bear drive. And we actually collected hundreds of teddy bears, and my friend Liz, who was Ms. Arizona U.S. Universal in the Ms. division at the same time that I was Mrs. Arizona, we took off and we drove hundreds of teddy bears from Phoenix, Arizona to Moore, Oklahoma. We dropped them off. We met with an organization that was going to be hosting really big. It's a really big day event for families where there were places that were coming in to give clothing, places that were coming in to give bedding, whatever people needed and whatever kind of resources they needed. So they held on to the teddy bears until this event where I ended up flying back in to be there to actually deliver and hand out these teddy bears to the kids.
Okay.
And this little one conveniently fell out of the bag when we dropped everything off. And so we just sort of took him and put him in the center console and gave him a Starbucks and claimed that he was just another co-pilot on the drive. But every time I look at him, I think of the whole Moore, Oklahoma trip and all the good that came out of that.
All right. Well, I'm going to start asking some very direct questions about the Mrs. Universal pageant. And now, is that the crown behind you as well?
Yes. This is the crown.
People love to see the crown. Show it off there.
Oh, yes.
Oh, there it is. Those are beautiful. That is really nice. Does it stay on the head?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Very well. In fact, I can put it on, and I was recently in Disney for the Disney Princess Half Marathon.
Right.
And when a group of us did the, I think it was called the Royal Family 5K, so it was just a 5K that went on a couple days ahead of time, I wore this for the entire 5K.
Wow.
So I ran a 5K in this.
Wow. I don't think I've ever heard of that before. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I could pretty much, it doesn't move. It's good.
Wow, that's great. Okay, let's get down to this. The national competition is being held where this year?
This year, the national competition is being held in Rhode Island. We're taking it to the East Coast.
All right. Now, what are the phases of competition for this pageant?
There is the usual. There is swimsuit.
Okay.
There is evening gown, and there is personal interview.
Now, personal interview, is it round robin or panel style?
It's panel style.
It's panel. Now, are there other divisions? Is it just a Mrs. division, or are there other?
This year, there is a Ms. division. There is the Mrs., and then there's a Mrs. 40s, which is, some pageant systems would call it like the elite.
Right.
Or, so we have a Mrs. 40s.
Okay. Now, Ms., you mean MS period, correct?
Yes.
Okay, because I have to tell you, probably one of my top 5 questions I get from pageant participants is looking for Ms. pageants. It seems to be the growing group of pageants. Is that what you've been seeing too out there?
Yeah, I think it just really allows for you, if you're someone who has done Miss pageants but you've aged out of the Miss division,
right, there's
next option. If you're someone who, divorce unfortunately happens, and sometimes it's a situation you have to get out of, and if you're really set on doing pageants and something you really enjoy to do, just because you've gotten divorced, you should still have an option to be able to compete in. So I think it's a really good thing.
I think it's fantastic. I love going to Ms. competitions. It's a lot of fun. Tell me a little bit about your year of service. What type of appearances have you racked up this year?
Do you have the rest of the evening? No, I'm just kidding.
Absolutely.
I hit the ground running as soon as I won my title. I don't think I was back in Arizona for 24 hours, and I was already on the road driving to Vegas for, I think Miss America was going on that following weekend, or there was some pageant that was going on right afterwards. So I've averaged, I would say, probably 4 to 5 appearances a month.
Okay.
Just recently, I did a tally just to, figure out where I was, and I think I figured out that I've traveled 26,000 miles with my crown and banner.
Wow. And
I've hit 6 states and 2 other countries. So there was Aruba, and then I did a Christmas event in Mexico.
Fantastic.
So it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I've been incredibly busy. My husband and I own our own business, and we're expanding. So we're in the process. We just got done moving, but we're adding to our fleet, and we're adding new employees. So there's always all kinds of things changing there. And every once in a while, I think to myself, God, have I taken on too much? Do I have too much on my plate? I'm afraid I'm going to drop the ball. But, then I think to myself, I have 1 year. I have 1 year from the time that I won the national title I have 1 year to do everything that I possibly can. And the director with US Universal, Victoria Hughes, she is a fantastic director, and she's pretty much like, whatever you're going to do that is going to, add positivity and you're doing something good in your community, go do it. Go do it. Just
right.
whatever you want to do that, you're giving back. And I hope I've made her proud.
Fantastic. Now, have you been figuring out what appearances you wanted to do before you actually won the title, or did you start setting up the appearances once you had the title in hand? How did that go?
There are some organizations here in Arizona that I've worked with in the past. Two of them, Arizona Make-A-Wish, Arizona Sky Kids. There's a few other local elementary schools that I've dressed up as a princess for some of their children's functions, and I'll go there and I'll pass out little tiaras and candy and take pictures and sign autographs. And so some of those kind of places, they've always told me that, whatever title I have, whatever I'm doing, even if I don't have a title, just, come back with us. And yearly they want me to come back and help out with the kids. So there are some organizations that will just reach out to me and say, hey, this is what we have going on. If you're free, if you're available, come on over. So there were some things that I knew ahead of time. If I were to win the national title, I could already be doing this. I could be doing that. A lot of the weekend stuff, I've just kind of, maybe a month or two out, I'll find out about them.
Right.
I just recently was contacted by a friend of mine here in Arizona who asked me to walk in a runway show next month. So, some stuff I'm still searching out on my own, but I've also made enough connections with a network of people to, kind of come to me too and say, hey, if you're free that weekend, we could use you. So
fantastic. Now, we're just about at the end of our time together, so I have to ask you, are there any things you want to make sure the viewers of the PageantCast know about your year or about Mrs. Universal?
I think, like you said before, there's a lot of people that haven't really heard of Mrs. US Universal. It is still an up-and-coming pageant, and I really want the viewers to know that my experience with them has been fantastic, and it's something that I think if you were considering doing a pageant, if you were thinking about doing Mrs. or Ms. or whatever division you might be in, just go on to usuniversalpageants.com and check us out and see what everything's all about, because I really think that we've got something good going here.
And we'll have links to that, of course, in our show notes. It was great getting to talk to you. Certainly a lot more than I got to talk to you in Chicago this time. It's been a lot more fun. Now, one thing we like to do at the end of each of our shows is see your best pageant wave. And yes, I'll be grading. So let's see.
Does this have to be a regular wave, or is this like a cliched?
Okay, you are in a parade. What wave do you actually use? Okay, so that's like a hybrid. That's like a 50-50 of the cliche version.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Very good. I noticed that in this parade you weren't too happy because you didn't have the full 500-watt smile going that time.
I think I was more focused on what my wave was doing.
all concerned. Oh, my God.
Oh, my gosh, I'm looking at the camera and said, what does my wave look like?
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. It was absolutely fantastic to get to talk to you and your entire zoo.
Thank you, Tim. It's been great talking to you, too.
It's been fantastic. And to all the viewers of the PageantCast, Tierra.
PageantCast.